All right, hello and welcome everybody. Doug here with thelincolnlist.com. I want to welcome you to Happy Hour episode 12. Can you believe it? 12 episodes of Happy Hour. What would be more amazing than that is if there were any of you out there that watched all 12 of this. I would be amazed. I love you if you did. So we got some good stuff we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a new type of whiskey. We're going to talk about the stock market, our week, and some of the trades that we have here. Don't forget, in a couple of weeks, mini camp. We're going to be talking about our strategies in detail. You get a free DVD. I put the link right here below. I know you get the free DVD, you get free access to the trade room, you learn the strategies, how they work, and then you get to see them in real time. Mini camp coming up in a couple of weeks. Now, I'm sure you're giggling somewhat at this outfit I'm wearing. Now, it's freezing cold in San Diego. When I say freezing cold, I mean 50. That's cold for us. It's been raining, it's overcast, which is rare. And I went with the sweater today. I feel Euro. Actually, I feel like Sprockets. You gotta remember Sprockets? Let's dance. My name is Dita. That's a bad impersonation, but for some of you old timers would remember Mike Myers used to do a skit on Saturday Night Live called Sprockets. You would understand what I was doing. If you don't know what it's doing, just Google it. Google Sprockets, you'll figure it out. So let's move on. I think I want to start out with the whiskey. Now, I've kind of got into a rut, and I promised before the month is over, I'm going to hit the liquor store and I'm going to buy some proper whiskey, because we started out with the proper stuff that was in my cabinet. Now that we're into 12 weeks of liquor, for the last few weeks we've done B52 shots. Last week I think I hit an all-time low, which was straight tequila. And I didn't think I could go any lower than that, but I think I'm about to, because what I have in my hand here is Dewar's Scotch. Now, it's not just Dewar's. I think that's how it's pronounced. Dewar's. Dewar sounds better, doesn't it? Not only is it Dewar Scotch, but it's honey-flavored Scotch. And I don't know what to expect here, but I don't understand the honey thing. Like, a couple years ago, I think it was Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, somebody came out with a honey bourbon. Was a big hit, and now everybody's got some sort of honey or spiced flavored whiskey, which to me is just stupid. If you drank whiskey for a long time, this is like your favorite band. You know, your underground band that you and your buddies know about, they all of a sudden get signed by a major record label and get played on airplane, and all these other fans start coming in and like, oh, I love this band, you know, and you're like, I've been around forever. You feel like betrayed, right? So us long-term Scotch drinkers, whiskey drinkers, we're going to feel offended, but I get it. You know, they want to bring in new people to drinking Scotch. Maybe they mix this. I don't know what the purpose is of the honey. We're going to find out. So let me just get started on this. Now, I'm not a big fan of Dewar's in the first place. It's a blended Scotch. It's mid-priced. That doesn't mean it's not any good. It sort of kind of falls in with Johnny Walker's Black Label or something like that. In my mind, you're getting a blended Scotch that's at a budget. There isn't going to be any smoky or tasty flavors in this. It's just going to be a Scotch, a basic Scotch, which is good. You know, I'm sure it fits somebody. As we look at it, this stuff looks... It's murky. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but the better scotches that we've had in whiskeys have been always clear, crystal clear liquor. This is like mud or something. And it smells cheap. Like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago with the Glenlivet, which is just my smell, is that when you get the more, I wouldn't say more expensive, but higher end brands of nicely distilled whiskeys, you don't smell just the alcohol when you sniff it. The cheaper the whiskey, it seems like as soon as you smell it, the more alcohol that you smell. Like they just water that down with alcohol. It's like, this is probably 2 steps above MD 2020. Okay, maybe 10 steps. MD 2020 is pretty rank. All right, let's taste it. Enough of this garbage. Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, gee. Oh, I can't get this out of I feel like that raccoon on the Geico commercial, like, oh, gosh, you got to try this. Oh, this is horrible. Like, it was a minute there I was drinking some scotch, and then the honey comes down, and it's like, oh, that's just nasty. Now, I can see that if you drink whiskey and you have another drink. The honey smooths it out, so there's like no burn to it. So if you drink that whiskey, you're like, oh, that burns. This might be a solution for you. I don't know. No. But you know what? I understand. Because it takes all kinds. Not everybody's going to like the smoky flavored scotches that I like. They're going to like another item. Most of you probably out there don't even like scotch. You may like bourbon. Maybe you don't even like bourbon. You like beer or wine or mixed drinks. That's the beauty of it. It's somewhere out there. This is a product that fits. And that's how I'm going to transition into talking about stocks, is that sometimes, I recently did a post, I'll put the link here if you want to read it, which was my last whiteboard. It was about things that helped me break through certain barriers and things I wish I would have known as a trader. And one of the biggest drawbacks I think that I had starting out is that I tried to make sense out of everything in trading. I tried to understand everything, or I watched a lot of news. I read a lot of articles. I had subscriptions to all like money magazines and Wall Street Journal. And I would just consume myself with as much knowledge as possible. And then I realized I was trying so hard to keep up with everything and learn everything and try to like think I could keep my finger on every piece of the market that I would just miss opportunities all the time. Or I would get too sophisticated and clever with my trading strategies and my ideas. And I think this is a problem that a lot of us have, is that we don't keep trading simple enough. We try to make it more complex. Now, trading definitely is hard. It has its challenges, but I think what makes it more difficult is when we try to be sophisticated or outthink ourselves and get clever. It backfires on us, when we try to get too smart. Now, one of the things I've noticed from training people for many years now is people with higher level of education. And I don't mean this is a bad thing or say this is everybody, but think like accountants, doctors, engineers, people with higher level degrees of education seem not to be able to figure out how to trade and trade consistently and profitably. Again, doesn't mean you're not going to find an engineer who's successful. That would be ridiculous of me to say that. There are several successful accounting traders, people that come from doctor backgrounds, lawyer backgrounds, accounting backgrounds. People come from all kinds of backgrounds. But generally, as a group, you will find that those people struggle a little more. And the reason, I think, is because they try to micromanage everything about stock trading. They try to overthink the process. They try to make sense of, why is this stock up so much? Why is this stock down so much? Why doesn't the market see what I see? And to me, that was somewhat of a problem. I was never on that educational level. I didn't have a higher level education like college or something like that. You probably figured that out. Right? Shocker, right? But what I noticed a big benefit for me was to simplify trading game to a small level, like a first grade level, where I'm looking for 1 to 2 things. I block out everything else, and that's laser focus on just 1 or 2 setups, and that's it. And since that point, it really made it, over the last decade, it really turned around for me. But that's all I do. I really just trade 2 things. That's it. And we're going to be talking about those 2 things in minicamp. But my point to you is, try to make it simple. Try not to outthink yourself and be too clever and try to, read tweets and just try not to get too fancy with your trading. Try to keep it simple. Try to keep it, easy for you to understand, because you're going to have enough variables you have to deal with that makes trading hard. You need to keep the system of finding stocks and executing stocks and your entry prices on it. You need to make that as simple as possible. So that's my little rant there. Just, again, not saying that there's not really highly intelligent people that succeed at stock trading, but I noticed that the street smart people, the people that come in and say, all right, that's the way the market is, they make peace with it and just say, that's the way it is, I deal with it. And those are the people that seem to really succeed. And for some people, that's a difficult thing to do, is to try not to, micromanage everything about trading or try to, come up, make sense out of the market, which is what I talked about, making sense of the market. I'm going to try to swig the last piece of this before we get into the watch list. Whew. Now, as far as trading, this was a good week. About a little more than actually $7,700 worth in gains. But it was a, I don't want to say easy, because it's never easy, but boy, it was a nice, smooth, non-traumatic week, meaning that most of the stuff I got into was good right away. I didn't have to battle it out. I wasn't getting frustrated with stuff. I mean, it was just one of those smooth weeks. They don't happen all the time, but I take them when you get them. And mainly that reason was because a lot of the stocks I had been talking about in the past watch lists here, like X, for example, and Fran, SGen. Let me just put Fran up there for you. You know, this Fran, also NVIDIA, NVDA. You know, some of these finally pulled back a little bit. Like NVIDIA had just a nice sell-off on Friday. But a lot of these stocks finally got some nice pullbacks to them. And I tried a couple times to short them, and it wasn't working. So finally came good on that. So we'll see how this week progresses with a few of these. You actually saw here in the market itself that we talked about the big announcement was going to be interest rates. How was that going to impact the market? And I was pretty convinced we were going to see a run to 20K. We came up short. And now it's 3 days since the Fed announcement, and the market, the SPY here's pulled from 228 to 225, right back into the 10 moving average. So you've seen some pretty methodical and orderly selling since the Fed. Now, I thought regardless of what the Fed was going to say, they raised interest rates, by the way, a quarter point. I'm sure you already know that. But I thought regardless of what they say, the market was going to go up anyway because it had to hit that number emotionally. Now, we still may do that. We may see a retaliation here, but we got a little more ways to go. If we don't do that, I think early on, you're going to see probably a press down to the breakout level, which is just slightly below the 20 moving average, which is 222. So look for that. It's a day-by-day thing for me. I've long since gotten out of the prediction business. I just play it as it comes, but we did see some decent little selling there. I'm like really, like honey is coming up through my face right now from this drink. I feel like I'm belching honey. I know it's gross, but that's what it feels like. So whoo, it's like leaking out of my eyeballs. Anyway, let's get back to stocks. What I want to look at here is what I got on my sheets. The last few days have been pretty good for Kite. An old fave is Kite. Now you've got a pretty decent ramp on the bottom, 45 to 51. This is good for Kite. You don't see moves. I've traded this stock a lot, you know. It's back and forth. It looks sketchy, but I wouldn't put it so much on a technical analysis viewpoint as I would just personal experience from trading Kite. Anytime you get a good ramp, like on Friday, you see you got a really steep ramp around into lunch, and then a nice little sell-off. That's what I love to trade. I love to trade those nice little ramps. And it comes like, you know, storming right back up to 52. So maybe we start out 53, 53 and a half, somewhere in that neighborhood on Monday morning. Would love to short this thing on a nice little ramp. Only if it ramps. I don't want to short it just because for the hell of it. It's got to be set up right. Also, EBIS. Now, I started into a short with this, and, you know, I'm a little underwater on it. I won't lie. I'm a little underwater. Surprised that they haven't given me just at least a little teeny-weeny pullback. Some of the stuff that we've seen lately, some of these stocks just kind of get going, and the Momo lasts a little bit longer than you think. We're on, see, this is 6 straight days of green. Dollar-wise, it's not the hugest move from 26 to 35, but not too bad. Not too bad. The RSI is nice and steep. I'd like to add to this position and make this work, kind of like I did with FAE and NVIDIA and those kind of stocks, SGen, for example, just kind of adding into those positions and try to capitalize on eventual profit taking on it. So I like EBS here as a short. Another stock I like to trade just as a good trader is WIN, W-Y-N-N, WIN. Now, the reason I'm bringing up this one is we're kind of at a crossroads here. Something's going to... We know the Macau news came out a little while ago there on last week on WIN, which sent this thing from slightly over 100 down to 90 in one day. This thing just got dumped. Came storming back, but hasn't really been able to get up off the mat down here. The thing I'm looking at is the last week, if you just look at $90, you draw a line across $90 on the daily chart, you're going to see about 4 times over the last week, this thing has gotten into the lower areas and then bounced off. It's just clinging, but it's not really bouncing that far. So something's going to happen at this level. Either it secures this level and makes a really strong bounce off of 90, or 90 goes, and this thing's going to go just dump straight to 85. If that 90 goes, it will have a hard time slowing itself down before 85. So, you know, let's watch it. I got an alert set there at $90. See what it does. Going to watch it. If it confirmed up and maybe set up well, it could be a long. But if that 90 goes, I think a short would be a pretty nice sizable trade. Also, maybe want to take a look at BID, B-I-D. I missed my short opportunity on this one on Friday. I mentioned, if you're following my Twitter, I was like, I'm BID, I want to short this. I had 2 shots at it, but I missed it because I was so busy doing other stuff and looking at other things. And it kind of faded pretty good. It got a little bit up over there, 42, down to 41. I mean, there was some money. There was some range in there to get some cash. I would only do this one if it would squeeze back up again. You know, and again, I keep going back to minicamp, but this is something that we're going to talk about in depth. Is I think where people look at short selling stocks or even buying dips, they just think because the stock is down a certain amount or up a certain amount that calls for a bounce or that calls for a short. That has something to do with it, but to me it's more important on how it gets there. So when you look at a chart like BID, you see that it goes from 38 to 42. It's got somewhat of a lot of green bars, a lot of buying, a lot of verting and vert move in there. Those are usually the best type to short. So we'll see how this BID works out. Well, thank you guys for sticking around here for episode 12. I promise, I do deeply promise that in the next week or so, I'm going to hit the liquor store. We're going to get some better whiskey than this. I've hit rock bottom and I'm somewhat embarrassed. Don't forget about minicamp. This is going to be great. It's your opportunity to see how our strategies work. I'm not just going to show you the strategy, but we're going to talk about everything from A to Z, why the strategy works, how to find it, how to execute, how to do ads, where you should put your stops, risk management, the whole thing. Plus, you get free access to the room, which makes it nice. So when you see the strategy, you learn the strategy. You get to see how that actually works in a real-time environment, because just showing you and telling you is one thing. I want you to see it in real time. That way you understand it. So anyway, it was a great week. As I said, $7,700 worth of gains this week. Very, 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 very nice. So some of these great stocks that we were working with finally came into play. Thanks for watching the video again. Till next week. Cheers. Oh, got just a swig left of this honey blended Dewars. Woo! Took another bullet for you guys. You don't need this. Cheers. Talk to you next week.